everybody. So today we are going to be talking some more about the asteroid Chariklo. Her asteroid number is 10199 if you want to plug that into astro.com to see where she falls in your chart. I did a video about her about 3 or 4 months ago that I'll also link to this video in case you missed it, because I won't be going through too much of her mythology in this one. I did that in the other one. But she's been on my mind recently. Well, first of all, I really like her. And second of all, I had my Chiron class in my Fundamentals of Chart Weaving course. And I did bring her into the equation because I like her a lot, like I said. So she has been on my mind. And I said I'd do another video about her at some point, but I wasn't sure when. Now feels like a good time. So I'm going to talk some more about some stuff having to do with her, what this asteroid might represent, how you could maybe work with her. The first things that come to mind are like some more shadowy things that could have to do with her. Like in the other video that I made, I talked about the notion that she was a dutiful wife, spouse, very devoted. Probably a reason why Vesta liked her too, why Vesta was friends with her, the devotion. Vesta is very devoted. But she was very devoted to Chiron. And it seems like, you know, this could be a shadow, right? Because you have to think about what you are devoted to, and not necessarily in relationships. So I do think that because a lot of her mythology that we know about is based on relationships that she had with Pallas, with Vesta, with Chiron. I do think that there is a question about devotion in relationships and dutifulness in relationships, and how you are dutiful, and does this actually fucking serve you? I'm not saying that Chariklo wasn't also served by her relationships with Vesta and with Pallas and with Chiron, but do I think that a shadow side of her could be that perhaps she wasn't? Absolutely. And I think it can manifest like that in people's lives and in their charts. Totally. So I think with Chariklo, it's probably a good thing to ask yourself about devotion and about what it means to be dutiful because you want to be, not because you feel like you have to be. There can be a sense of feeling like you have to be this way with Chariklo. And that's not good. Who does that serve? The fuck does that serve? Doesn't serve you. if it's not actually what you want to be doing, you know, or if it's that you feel like you have to, you know. So I do think that this could be a shadow of Chariklo. I feel like, you know, all things have a light and a shadow. This is one of hers. Another shadow of her. Sorry, I'm gonna look down so I make sure I don't forget anything. Another shadow of hers. You know, her name means graceful spinner. And so she's thought of as having like grace and tact and all and doing things with grace and tact. But sometimes that could even be a shadow too, you know. Maybe it's not served. I mean, and I'm not this none of these are universal for everybody in everybody's chart, right? But there could be issues with like grace and tact. Perhaps you feel like you have to function this way, you know, in the area of life by house and how by sign. Maybe you feel like you have to, and maybe there are times that you would rather not. You know what I mean? Any of that seems possible too. Then of course the light part of this would be doing this because you want to, and you know, that's a whole other story. Okay, another thing about Chariklo is she, you know, there's not a lot that's known about her independent of other people. Like I said before, you know, most of what we know is from her dealings or her relationships with Chiron, with Vesta, with Pallas. So Chariklo in a natal chart kind of feels like a place where you might not get your proper credit or your proper due, or you might not give yourself the proper credit or proper due. Though I could see it because Chariklo does have so much to do with relationships, I think it's very possible that this could manifest this way in relationships. It could, though it could also be something that you kind of do to yourself as well. Yeah. So, and that could be a shadow too, you know, if you don't feel like you get the credit that you deserve for whatever. And I'm not saying that Chariklo did or didn't. She seems important to me. And yet for there to be very little about her, unless she's tied to somebody else's story. Seems interesting to me. I feel like she didn't get the proper credit in the mythology books that she should have. I just think she probably didn't. Yeah, so I would definitely think about that with Chariklo too, and how if that plays out that way in your chart, where she falls by sign and house and aspects made. Let me see. Okay, so I do all kinds of readings, right? But some people want me to focus on certain things in the chart, and Chiron is something that people do like to focus on specifically. So I've started, for people that are curious about their Chiron, I have started integrating Chariklo into these readings, because I think I feel like, you know, they work nicely in tandem, or they can. You know, there's nothing mentioned in mythology about her directly being a healer or a shaman, but I have seen it mentioned that she is like a healer or a shaman. That seems possible to me. I mean, Chiron was. And I feel like anybody that Chiron would have been fucking with is gonna have some of these similar gifts. Or something, maybe not the exact same thing, but something going on, something along the same lines. Because I feel like, you know, Chiron is that wound, and I feel like somebody partnered with Chiron is gonna have to be able to handle that. I think it's also possible that Chariklo could, because Chiron was so wounded, I think it's also possible that Chariklo in a chart could show attracting wounded people. I think this is very possible too. Of course, that's not universal. That would depend on where it is in your chart and what it's doing. But I do think that there could be something along those lines going on, that Chariklo could manifest that way. But, you know, it's never said directly that she was like a healer or a shaman, but I do feel like I think she probably had to have some sort of gift like that. So we have, you know, Chiron and the wounding, right? And then we have her. And it seems like this is the way that I like to work with them. Kind of using Chariklo to transmute or transform or transition Chiron's wounding. I think she can be used this way. But the thing about it is she has to be able to do something with this wounding. She can't just take it all on herself. And I do think that sometimes when people are in relationships with wounded people, that can happen. I know this firsthand. And I'm sure a lot of you all do too, right? If the person that you're in a relationship with is wounded and you are a somewhat decent spouse, you're not a shit spouse or a shit partner, you're going to want to try to help them. You're going to want to try to love on them. You're going to want to try to heal them, make things better. But I do think that this can be done too much, to the point where it kind of sticks and stays to you. And I think this can happen with Chariklo and Chiron in a chart. I think Chiron's wounding I think Chariklo can be used to kind of do something with Chiron's wounding, to make it easier, to help flesh it out, what have you. But then Chariklo needs to be able to transmute or transform that wounding into something else, weave it into something else, spin it into something else. It can't just stay with her. So I think that part is important too. And I hope you all know what I mean by that, where I'm getting, you know, it's like, I don't know if you've ever been in a relationship with somebody who was like, you know, they're fucking wounded and you try to help them and they just kind of shit all over you all the time. And you can do one or two things with this. You can either take it on as if it's yours, even though you know it's not, but you take it on, or you turn it into something else. You transmute it into something else. You let it go and transmute it into something else. That's what Chariklo needs to do. And mind you, I'm not saying that in mythology Chiron shit all over Chariklo or anything. I'm not saying that. I don't know. I don't know. It seems like he was civilized enough not to. But I could see this happening in a chart, depending on, you know, what Chiron is doing in the chart, what Chariklo is doing in the chart. I could see it happening that way, where Chariklo ends up taking on a lot of Chiron's wound in the chart, and if it's not transmuted into something else, or transformed into something else via Chariklo, it ends up kind of feeling like Chariklo is just like a trash can. Or like, do you know what I mean? And we don't want that either. I like her too much for that. I really do. I like her way too much for that. So yeah, I think it's important to see kind of like how Chiron's wounding in your own chart can, like how Chariklo specifically might help Chiron's wounding, help ease it, how Chariklo might take on some of Chiron's wounding as it is. But then what's going to be most important is looking at where Chariklo falls in the chart by sign, house, and even degrees. You can implement things like degree theory or deacons or however you want to do it, to look for ways that Chariklo could transmute any wounding that she has taken on from Chiron. That's kind of what I do with it anyway. But yeah. If anybody wants me to read something like this for them, or just read, you know, or reading in general. But this kind of stuff really is fun to do. It's very interesting, and it's healing. It is. Let me know. I will put where you can find me in the description box below. And I will see you all later.